Welcome back, everybody, to this week's live episode of the DCL Duo podcast. For those of you who have not watched before, we are trying to do one live episode a week now on Monday nights at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and so expect to see more of those as we go forward. If you are listening to this after the fact, you should join us over on the live episode the next chance you get, because we take questions live on the air. We'll be throwing some up. We'll be answering them as we go. For those of you out there watching live, be sure, if you are on Facebook, to give StreamYard permission so we can see your lovely names, so we know who we're talking to if you can. If not, drop them in the comments so that we know who we're talking to. But
otherwise,
tonight's
it just says Facebook user. So Facebook user wrote, "Hey y'all, hey."
we're all users of Facebook now. But yes, so I want to dive right into our show. Sam, I'm going to let you. I'm going to bring in Rebecca and let you intro our guest a little bit.
Absolutely. We are so excited to welcome Rebecca from the DCL Community. Rebecca hosts her own show on YouTube and, of course, on Facebook. She goes live usually once or twice a week. And she is basically the founder and moderator, admin extraordinaire of the Disney Cruise Line Community Facebook group, which is the largest Disney Cruise Line Facebook group, I believe, on all of Facebook.
Yeah.
And it was the first. I mean, before Disney Cruise Line itself had a presence on Facebook, Rebecca started a group. So welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm like, that entire intro video just gets me jacked every time I see it. I'm like, this is going to be the best show ever. And I'm just so excited to talk all things Disney cruising with you guys.
Oh, well, we love
Rebecca,
it.
I've got to start with, tell our audience, your cruising background. Like, how did you get from casual cruiser to admin of the largest Facebook group around Disney Cruise Line, and how many sailings have you been on, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So hi, everybody. I am Rebecca, and I've been cruising with Disney since 1999. So my love for the cruise line goes almost as far back as the cruise line itself. I've sailed across the entire fleet, and I think something unique about me is I've sailed on board as a kid, a tween, a teen, an 18 to 20, a young adult, an adult. And with that, it allows me to connect with cruisers on whatever they may need to plan, prepare for, get excited for their Disney cruise. And, when I was a teenager on board, fun fact, I decided that I wanted my friends from one cruise and my friends from another cruise to get together so we could somehow strategically convince our parents to book the same cruise the following year. And that didn't happen. But what came out of that was this Facebook group, this DCL community. So that's how it all started. And slowly people from around the world just came in and started asking their questions and sharing their passions. And it just became a space where we could all connect on this thing that we love so much. And it's grown to over 290,000 members. It's free for everybody to join. You can follow along on Instagram too, but Facebook's where that community is based. And yeah, it's my happy place. I love being on board Disney cruises.
So wait, how many total Disney cruises have you been on at this point?
I just went on my 25th. I sailed on the Wish for the first time. So I'm officially Pearl, which is exciting. Yes. So I'm excited for some of those additional benefits that come with Pearl. I'm pumped.
Awesome.
And when you started your community Facebook group, were people doing the per sailing Facebook groups yet? Or was that still a ways off?
No, this is back when people were still poking each other on Facebook, way back. So
I was just saying the other day, I remember when the prompt that they had where it was like, Brian is, and then you fill it in. So now it comes up in my feed. I'm like, what was the sentence that I left
this
here?
Was this was like the early Facebook days, Brian, because
back when it was cool and hip. Yeah.
Back when it replaced MySpace and Friendster.
Exactly. I was going to say, I needed to let everybody know that I had basketball practice that day. And I'm just, it's so funny looking back at the things you used to post, even in the group, when it was just, just a handful of my friends. And now it's a whole lot of friends from around the world, including you guys, which is awesome.
Yes,
nice.
We are very active in your group. I love it when you tag me on all those Disney Band Plus questions, because I feel like every other day somebody's asking a question about Disney Band Plus, and every time that happens, Rebecca tags me in the comments.
Please let an expert answer
Hey,
these.
hey, we wrote the section in the unofficial guide about Disney Band, Sam. So
We
you're an unofficial guide expert now on
We're
Disney Band.
published in that book.
That's so cool. My light reading. I love it. I
So
can't get enough
Rebecca,
Disney.
you mentioned you just got back from your first time on the Wish. And since we're going to be prognosticating a bit, let's start with less prognosticating and more. That ship is so divisive. What did you
No.
think about the Wish? Like, where do you come down on it? Is it a ship you'd sail again, or do you think they just pivoted way too far in a direction that's not, for you?
Yeah, a great question. So I went into it with a very open mind, and I think that's how everybody has to go into every Disney cruise experience, whether your first cruise was on the Wish and you're not going to try the Magic or vice versa. Um, people freaked out when the Dream first came out back in 2011 because it was different than the Magic and Wonder. And that same thing happened with the Fantasy, and the same thing happened with the Wish. So I think it just takes people some getting used to and warming up to the new ships.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. There were definitely some things that made me question why, but it wasn't anything that would make me not book that ship again. I mean, we loved it. The adult only space was great up on deck. The dining rooms were amazing. Yes, maybe a little tight and a little loud, but nothing again that would make me not book it. So yeah, I'm like, two elevator banks. I never felt far away from an elevator. Why are we complaining about elevators? I didn't see it. So,
We're with you, Rebecca. I feel
Yeah.
like if you go on that ship with an open mind, knowing it's going to be different and
Yes.
being open to the fact that it's different, I feel like you can really enjoy the Wish. If you're going on to the Wish and you're like, I want it to be exactly like the Fantasy, well, then you've just set yourself up for failure, right? Because
Exactly.
it's not
Yes.
exactly. Yeah.
And especially with the 3 and 4 night itineraries, it's such a different vibe on board. On those 7 night sailings, you really get to know the crew, but
Mhm.
you don't necessarily have that same one-on-one interaction the entire time on board with all there is to do on these Disney ships. So I couldn't agree more. I love the Wish. I love any Disney ship. Just get me on board. I will sleep in the atrium or Grand Hall if I have to. Just get me on board.
I love it.
So where's your level of excitement about the Treasure coming out? Fingers crossed later this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your level of excitement? Scale of 1 to 10 here.
I'm excited for anything Disney Cruise Line. I'm automatically an 11. I mean, you should, whenever somebody even mentions Disney at work, I'm like, did someone say Disney? I perk up.
I'm the same way. I just jump
Right?
into the conversation. I might be like all the way across down the hall, across the room, and I'll be like,
Yes.
"Oh, you're talking about Disney." Even if it's Disney parks, I'll join the conversation.
Right? And I'm like, and this is how the Disney cruises are different. Did you know about them? But I am so excited I'm so excited for the Treasure. I think it's going to be something a little bit different. And what I'm really, really looking forward to, and you guys know this, Disney takes comment and feedback so seriously.
Mhm.
And they're not just going to take feedback and let it sit. So, when they announced it, that the Treasure was going to be coming out in 24, I think a lot of people expected the middle of the year, but they're really squeezing every possible minute that they can out of prep time.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if that is because a lot of the feedback is things that they're taking into consideration. So designs have to change. So I am curious, like the running track was a big point of contention. Luna not really being closed off at night.
Mhm.
That was a big point of contention. But I'm excited. The moodiness just seems the adventure Coco's restaurant. I mean,
Mhm.
I am just so excited to eat on that ship. But I don't,
I'm the
what
same.
about,
Right?
right?
I'm excited to eat. I'm excited to sit in the Walt Disney Theater and watch Moana. I mean, let's be really honest.
Although I'll
Yes.
say I am guessing, just based on everything we've heard, there won't be significant design change on the Treasure. Now, I hold out hope
On the
that
physical part.
on the physical part, like I don't think we'll get a running track. I think that ship sailed, pardon the pun. Just the way they design these ships, right? I'm a little hopeful though with the amount of time they have on Wish Class 3 or Triton Class 3, however they want to describe it. If we'll see some design changes on that ship
Mhm.
to start to
Yeah.
account for this. I'll tell you the biggest thing that I am nervous about on the Treasure, and this is a really nitpicking point, but the biggest thing I'm worried about on the Treasure is they kept saying the Wish is bespoke for 3 and 4 night sailings. The stateroom storage reflects that, so I don't know what you do
Yeah.
if you're sailing on it for 7 nights. So like I do hope they may have accounted for that in some of the room design choices, but I don't know. I don't know. Well, we build this show as prognosticating about the future of Disney Cruise Line. And so I want to kind of just, this is all going to be wild speculation, everyone. We have no specific knowledge of anything Disney plans to do in the future. We're just reading tea leaves at this point. But I'm not sure that there are, 3 better people out there aside from some Disney Cruise Line Imagineers to just kind of toss these questions around and see where we think it's headed. Rebecca's been sailing for a long time with Disney and seen kind of the arc of where they're headed. So I want to start with this new ship coming out, not the Treasure, the Adventure.
Yeah.
So we know it's a mega ship. We know it's gigantic. We know it's going to be based out of Singapore. Beyond that, we don't know a ton. We don't know. I mean, we assume it's going to be doing, Asia Pacific sailings, but I don't know that the cruise weather over there is favorable year round. 4 funnels on top. Like, Rebecca, what was when you first saw the Adventure and you first heard the news about the Adventure, what was your first reaction to that?
Holy moly, that's a lot of ship for Disney. It's not like we have it's not like Disney Cruise Line has the biggest ships out there to begin with. So this was a big adventure for Disney Cruise Line. I'm just so curious. Do you guys think they'll have a casino on board?
Oh, this is like the hardest.
We're a house divided. We're a house divided on this question. Like I am firmly in the camp of no, because they won't want to damage the brand. Like you're not going to have Mickey slots. You can't have theming. They couldn't even do like Mickey playing cards at a poker table. I don't think. Like I think it's no, but I think it's no in a way that might be detrimental to the whole exercise here, because I think that's so ingrained in the culture over there for cruising that you have a casino on board. But Sam, you've got a different reaction to it.
I have consistently had a different prediction on this. I have consistently said I think yes, they will have a casino, but it will be scaled back and there will be no Disney IP and it will be like separate. It won't be like on other cruise lines where you have to walk through the casino to get from point A to point B. I feel like they'll have one, but it'll be kind of tucked away somewhere where you have to like go seek it out in order to get there. I don't know. I really feel like this is a really tough question because as Brian mentioned, as you've mentioned, the market expects a casino. The Asian market expects a casino. And so it's odd.
Maybe they'll turn Lorcana into some sort of gambling game, and then that will solve the entire problem. Sabacc tables, Lorcana gambling. There you go. Yeah.
Could you imagine? Well, Disney used to have arcades on board the ships. So I feel like they could lean towards that. I don't know if it's traditional gambling and casinos, but it's something that they've at least done before.
Sure.
So I'm so curious to see. And I mean,
like slot machines, but no table games, perhaps. Like, because slot machines tend to have like limits in how much you can bet on a particular, bet. Obviously, you can keep betting and keep betting and keep betting.
Or isn't Plinko big in Asia too? They have those parlors. So
But they could, so they could do.
Or does it become like a Dave and Buster's where it's just like a family entertainment gaming situation? Chuck E. Cheese, but Disney.
So Jennifer's saying the casino could be third party, like some of the shops. Yeah, I agree in principle. I do wonder. I think most of the casinos on board the ships. A friend of mine was telling me they're run by, I think, Bally's or somebody like that. But anyway, like I wonder if there's enough revenue out of one ship for Disney to really head that direction.
Harrah's, not Bally's.
Harrah's, yeah. So, yeah.
We got another great comment from Rob here. If the Sabacc table from the Star Cruiser should find its way onto Hyperspace Lounge, I will change my outlook completely. Rob,
they should preaching
to the choir here.
They should just gut Hyperspace Lounge and rebuild the sublight lounge on the cruise line. We have the technology, Rob. We have the technology.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point around casinos. I think tea parlors is another thing that you see on some of the Asian cruise lines.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know where do you think they sail? Part of me thought maybe they'll be taking over the Australia, New Zealand itinerary for part of the year, but I don't think so. And frankly, I don't know that Australia, New Zealand's been going very well for Disney this season. So yeah, I don't know. Where do you think they sail to?
I mean, I feel like there's such a bigger part of that ecosystem, right? Because it's not just about sailing. You have to get people on board, which involves a
Mhm.
lot of marketing. And, it's one thing to run one commercial on Food Network during prime time that reaches all of the US versus having to reach people across a bunch of different countries. And, you know, Disney Cruise Line's marketing budget, I don't know what it is. I know that their marketing team is fantastic, but having to do those specific campaigns in all those different countries, that involves a lot of legwork, a lot of brain power. And I think that's something that Disney would have to invest in to be able to grow in these other markets, because there's a lot of people, even here locally, that just don't know that Disney cruises exist.
Yeah.
So is it worth it to dabble in a bunch of places? I think for them it makes sense to make somewhere your home port
Mm-hmm.
and just grow from there. But I
I
don't know.
agree. I agree. I don't think we're going to see them like porting out of a lot of other Asian ports, at least for the first couple of years, because it is a huge investment, like you said, in marketing. I mean, I think they had to do a huge investment in marketing in New Zealand and Australia, and they still didn't sell out all of the cruises because there's not there are plenty of crazy Disney fans in New Zealand and in Australia, but it is not the same as in the United States. We have way more crazy Disney people in the United States than they have in, those two countries. Oh, this is
Yeah.
a great question, Brian. I love that you brought this up.
Yeah, so Sean's asking, one issue with the adventure is the fact that so much of it was already done when they bought it. How does this affect things in your mind? I mean, Disney announced they were going to put X hundreds of millions,
Billions. Yeah.
billions of dollars
Yeah.
into renovating it. I don't know that it being mostly built, like, I don't know that weighs one way or the other. They've already said they were going to reduce the number of rooms, so obviously they're going to be doing some interior gutting and renovation and redesign. I think they're fairly committed to giving it kind of the Disney feel. If anything, I guess my apprehension about this new ship, based on everything I've seen, is that it kind of dilutes the traditional brand of the cruise line. Like, these ships look very similar, the ones we have today, and the adventure looks so different from what they've built before, that I worry a little bit. You'll see it in port and you'll kind of know it's Disney, but maybe you'll be thinking, is it Disney, or is that some canard ship I haven't seen before? Right. So yeah, that's my only thing. What do you think, Rebecca, about the design of it all?
I think if Disney's going to put that much money into anything, they're going to do it right. And I mean, you guys know, sometimes it seems like Disney takes so much time with things. You're just like, okay, whenever you're ready. So I feel like
True.
they wouldn't rush it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that same thing could be said about any project that Disney does. I know you guys said you have your cruise coming up on a Royal, right? So,
Yes.
and are you guys going to their new private island?
We
Because it
are.
looks awesome.
So we are going to Coco. I'm going to say Coco Key because I hate calling it Coco Cay because that's wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone who listens to the show knows I pronounce it Key like the Bahamians. But I'm excited to go there. It looks really amazing. Nathan and Brian loved it on their sailing last May. And so we're going to be going there in April. And then again in May, we're going on not the newest ship. We're not going on the Icon, but we're going on two of the Oasis class ships in April and in May. And so, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to kind of see and compare what they're doing both on board and on their private island in comparison to what Disney's doing. But I do think that one of the things that Disney does so much better than Royal is, well, and of any cruise line, is really that iconic look, that ocean liner look of the ships, right? And so I'm with you, Brian, on I think they're gonna do a nice job on this ship. Like, I don't think she's gonna be ugly, but she's not gonna have that classic ocean liner look in the same way that the original 4 plus the Wish plus the Treasure plus ship number whatever it is, the one that's coming after the third of the Wish class ships. I guess it'll be ship number 9 now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's going to be, I think, interesting to see. I do think the colors do really help, though. Like just painting all the ships the same color, having that consistency, the funnels, that makes them look like they're in the same family, even if one is like large uncle of Bill.
Someone posted in Rebecca's group today. Was it Steve Peoples who posted? Maybe he posted in your group, or was it a different group? But he was like, they must have run out of Monica Blue for the Wonder, because it was docked and you could see the bare metal down one side and it wasn't blue any longer. So very, very interesting. Yeah. We've got another question here about the adventure, which is, do you think there'll be a new stage show, maybe Mulan? I mean, Rebecca, I don't know what you think, but 100% they're going to have a new stage production. It'll be interesting to see if they do a new stage production, maybe in a different language for that audience. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there are so many languages. So I feel like it's going to be interesting to see how the service on board reflects that too.
Yes.
And, having some sort of show that connects to the audience and teaches them what Disney Cruise Line is. I don't know about you guys, but I miss the Welcome Aboard show that would talk about, this is what you're going to expect this week. This is why your kids are going to have fun and the adults are going to have fun. And I just feel like there's so much that people just kind of expect you to know when you get on board. And if you're a first-time cruiser or even a second or third, you just might not know. So I would be curious if there's almost like a Welcome to Disney Cruising show like there used to be.
I think that's a great idea, and that's a great prediction. I think that would be super smart. I will say no to the question about Mulan, because Mulan is actually very politically divisive because of the way that Disney did the storytelling about the Huns and all of that. And so it's actually probably not the show that I would guess they would put on the adventure. If they're going to put a show that's got, sort of Asian cultural background, maybe Raya or something, or maybe they'll do like Moana.
Baymax the musical. Baymax the musical.
I mean, San Francisco. I mean, they're going to do something that's going to have less of a political impact with the Chinese market. So that's the issue with Mulan.
Duffy. They have to have a show with Duffy.
That is actually a great prediction. They will have Duffy on board. Duffy, Shelley May, and all of that crew. I can't. Olumel, obviously. What are all their names? I can't remember all their names, but
oh my gosh, Duffy sailed on a Disney cruise, a great opening number. Oh my gosh, that would be so perfect. They have to do that.
I love it. Oh, Larry saying Shang-Chi, and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I mean, they could do some Marvel stuff with Shang-Chi, right? Like, well, right now, one of the really successful new deck shows is the Heroes Unite show. It's right now on the Wonder. It's been over there in the Australian, New Zealand market. And then it's also on, obviously, Marvel Day at Sea on the Dream. And that's like super, super successful. I could see them, pivoting maybe and focusing more on, Shang-Chi and other, other heroes in the Marvel universe as well.
Or do they get away from Broadway and do like the ice skating show? Like I've seen on, I think Icon or Virgin, one of the cruise lines.
Or like a Cirque du Soleil, right? Like acrobatic type stuff. Yeah.
God, so many options.
Larry's, I think it's a good next phase here after we talk about the adventure. Yeah. Larry's saying, cruise lines seem to be diverging between building bigger versus building smaller. Which way do you expect Disney to go? Rebecca, I'm going to let you take the first stab here.
Larry, great question. So I have to start by saying, right, the Magic is my girl. She's the original. She's where it all started. I love the Magic, and it just breaks my heart when people say, like, oh, should I not sail on her? Is she too old? And my response is always, if you had called me old when I was 25, I would have looked you up and down, because I'm not old at 25.
Right.
But I feel like there's an intentionality that comes with some of the smaller ships and that kind of family vibe. And on some of the super large ships, they're great. And granted, I haven't sailed on any of the mega ships, but it just, I don't know. It feels like Disney is always doing everything with intention. So as much as I hate to say it, people keep asking about like when the Magic is going to retire. And I feel like there's always going to be a place in Disney Cruise Line for a smaller ship for some of these itineraries that you just can't get a mega ship into. So I feel like Disney, depending on the itinerary and where that demand is, that might reflect in the size ships that they put out into the market. But Brian, what do you
Yeah.
think?
I So here's the concern I have. I think you're right that there's demand for those smaller ships with Disney. I think the problem right now is Disney is operating more on the basis of dollars and cents, cash and bottom line than guest experience and all of their decisions. So I think for the foreseeable future, you're going to see them continue the trend of bigger, bigger, bigger. Um, and I worry that if they go smaller, they might try to do something like, oh, we're going to have a luxury yacht experience for our super high end, kind of cruisers.
Yeah.
And just say like we can do smaller, but it's going to cost you twice as much to sail as it would to sail like concierge on Disney Cruise Line. I personally think they should just replace the Magic and the Wonder with two brand new ships of similar size. Maybe update them a bit with the sense of, like, can we get another adult dining venue on the smaller ships? That would be kind of fun. Update at the margins, but keep those smaller ships. I'd be curious let's just throw this around to all three of us. How much longer? So the Magic is the ship I think that is really starting to show her age. Like, honestly, really starting to show her age. And I'm a little worried, how much longer does the Magic have? Like, how many years do you give it, Rebecca, before they really have to consider retiring that ship?
Breaking my heart, Brian. You're breaking my heart. I'm just like, just give me the Magic. I will take her and sail on her forever. Oh, I don't even know the typical lifespan.
Oh, they're
of
well
a ship
past
these
typical.
days.
Like 20
They're
years.
well
20,
past typical.
Well, they
yeah.
go down market. So they don't like retire them, but they like
Yeah.
send them down market to like lesser. Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
think Disney is doing that because I
No.
don't think they can
Yeah, they're not
send
gonna do
them.
that.
They
Yeah.
can't send these ships down market because they're so iconic
Yeah.
looking. And it probably costs them more money to take all the Disney out of them than it would to just keep operating them past their normal lifespan. But yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems like even, the Carnival, my mother-in-law, she's big into Carnival. And even some of their older ships, they just go to smaller ports.
Yep.
So maybe, Disney's got more of a, they've made that big investment at Fort Lauderdale. So maybe they do that. Or I know people are just begging them to go back to New York. So maybe that's an easy way for them to get to New York. So in my heart, the Magic stays forever and ever until she decides that she needs to go.
Until she sinks somewhere in the ocean.
Oh gosh.
All right. Well, I'm gonna give a real like hard prediction. Okay, so we're at 25 years now. I'm gonna say they're gonna keep her going until she's 40. So I'm gonna say that they're gonna I'm gonna say hard stop at 40. She's gonna, retire at middle age, basically. But I am gonna answer Sean's question because I love this question. When that inevitable day does come, though, what do you think happens to the Magic and the Wonder? Maybe dock it somewhere as a floating hotel like the Queen Mary. I'm gonna say no. I like the idea, Sean. I like your thinking. But I'm going to say no, she's going to get taken apart piece by piece because they do not want anybody using her in any way, shape, or form outside of Disney. So that's my prediction. On the other question you asked...
Target practice for the Dream and Fantasy.
Yeah. On the other question that you asked, though, Brian, about, or actually I think it was Larry's question about bigger, smaller, same size, whatnot. I'm going to predict, and I hate to make this prediction because I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm going to say when they do have to replace the Magic and the Wonder, they're not going to be replaced with 2,500 person cruise ships. Like, they're going to be replaced with 4,000 passengers, similar to the Wish and the Fantasy and the Dream. I just think they're going to replace them, but they're not going to replace them with like ships. They'll replace them with, they're not going to be mega ships though. I'm going to put the prediction out there. Disney is going to stay, other than this one-off behemoth that we're calling the Adventure, which I still hate the name because the treasure should have been the Adventure, but don't get me started.
Yeah.
But other than that behemoth, that's a one-off. They're going to stick with 4,000 passenger-ish ships. I mean, maybe they'll go to 5, but I don't think they're going to be like Icon or anything, close to that.
Yeah, I will say I'm going to give my hard prediction. So first, I want to acknowledge Rob saying +1 of the Magic class. We love the Magic class ships. The Wonder is our
Amazing.
absolute favorite ship in the fleet. Larry is suggesting maybe they'll melt down the Dream to make a new ship and claim environmentalism.
I love
Fair.
this, Larry.
Fair. And I also just want to say hi to Chris out there. We love speculating, so we're glad that there's somebody out there listening to us speculate. So I'm going to give my hard prediction. My hard prediction is this. So Iger said at the recent investor call that like they might look to expand over the course of the next decade, right? I'm going to say that is signaling that they will start another class of ships in the next 10 years. And I would suspect that 2 of those are slated to replace the Magic and the Wonder. And so I give the Magic maybe 10 more years before she's done, maybe a little less, and the Wonder gets the next 10 years. I don't know, but I don't think either of those ships have more than a decade of life left in them. I will say this again: we were on the Magic, we're going back on the Magic. She is starting to look a little tired. Like they're doing their best, and she looks great, but she doesn't look Dream and Fantasy great or Wish great. So yeah, I think it's getting close.
She's kind of a Monet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. I mean,
but there is some hope for you, Rebecca, because Michael said he looked at the oldest ship currently non-retired status is 76, the MV Astoria.
I'd love to see photos. That information.
I'd love to see photos, Tracy, of what that ship looks like on the inside, and I'd love to know if you would sail on her. But yes, there you go.
I was going to say it's just going to be the Magic and I doing round trip to Castaway. It's going to be great.
And NASA.
After this one, I have a question for you guys.
Okay, yeah. So this one is another area. Like if they keep on course and keep building mega ships, there was always some speculation though that Disney might build some smaller ones. I think pre-pandemic, we would have said, Disney was probably pretty close to entering the river cruise market directly rather than continuing to partner with AMA Waterways, or maybe in addition to, partnering with AMA Waterways. I don't know. I think with National Geographic being owned by Disney, having the Adventures by Disney product, I think they can do a lot of this stuff outside of the traditional Disney Cruise Line brands. But I don't know. What do you think, Rebecca?
I think they're going to go where the demand is. Disney is listening, and I think some of those things would be so cool to experience. Is it for the mass markets?
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know that it is. Just, despite how amazing it would be to go to Antarctica, if you can't get full ships of people there on a regular basis, dollars and cents, right? What about you guys?
I'm in exact agreement with you, Rebecca. I think we're going to see those things stay under the Adventures by Disney and National Geographic brands with those partnerships with those smaller companies. We might see some expansions in certain markets and maybe some compression in other markets, but they'll go where the demand is. And I don't think they're going to go full throttle, taking that over themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Big jump.
What about you, Brian?
No, I think as long as they have other outlets like Adventures by Disney and National Geographic, they can. Those are tailor made to like, let's see what happens if we do this or support these cruises for a few months, or do the Galapagos, do Antarctica, do a $100,000 around the world private jet experience, and then if it doesn't work out, who cares, right? We'll just not have it on the itinerary again, right? I think Disney Cruise Line, you're booking cruises. Well, talk about this in a second. You're usually booking cruises 2.5 years in advance. With Disney, it's maybe 18 months at times. But you're booking so far in advance, you got to have an idea of what the demand's going to be down the line. I feel like with Adventures by Disney and some of these others, it's such a smaller capacity kind of thing. I don't think DCL needs to push into those markets. Yeah.
Agreed.
Well,
we
Rebecca
had one other question.
Well, but Rebecca had a question for us.
Oh no, yeah, Rebecca, go ahead. I forgot. Yeah.
So I'm curious, we were talking about destinations, and I'm curious if you guys have any predictions for the brand new private, what is it, Lookout K at Lighthouse Point?
Yeah.
And
I think you mean
Point, Lookout K.
Lookout Key, but Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point.
Thank you.
TM.
Thank you.
TM.
Yeah. But do you guys have any predictions for this new destination? And do you think Disney will ever add another private island anywhere else in the world?
I think that's a great question. I don't know that outside of the Caribbean that Disney's going to do another private island. I don't know that any other cruise line though really does, because the market obviously for warm weather cruises really is in the Bahamas, the Caribbean, right? So I feel like that's probably unlikely, but I do think there's definitely a possibility of a third private island in the future if Disney continues to increase its fleet, because like right now with Lighthouse Point, they're just having, it's just going to be one ship docking, just like they do at Castaway. Whereas Royal has, two ships that dock at Coco Key. And
Ooh.
so, some of these other cruise lines are giving greater capacity at their private islands so that they can have multiple ships, and Disney is not. And so if they increase the fleet significantly enough, they might need a third location. For now, I think Lighthouse Point, is only going to be partially developed. They're doing phase 1. From what we know, there are some water excursions. There are some cultural excursions. There's cabanas. There's, presumably cookies or whatever they're going to call it if they don't call it cookies. They've got an adult beach that they're calling Serenity Bay. So I think we're going to see very, very similar circumstance and very similar amenities as what's on Castaway. I don't see them developing some crazy water park like Royal has at Coco Key. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I actually think they're kind of missing out on the older kid market, right? So I feel like Disney Cruise Line's private islands really cater to families with young kids or adults. And I'm not sure they really do a great job in providing enough activities or the right kind of activities for families with older kids and even like preteen, teenagers.
Yeah. Well, I remember the teenagers used to have their own beach where
Did they really?
Yes,
Oh my
we had our
goodness.
own beach, and then those darn cabanas came in and just took our beach away.
Oh, well, that
And,
makes sense.
they tucked the teens away in the back. So
Yeah.
I'm right there with
You
you.
know
I
what
think
that's all about, Rebecca?
I,
I was
All
just
I
saying,
about the
know.
Benjamins.
here is the guaranteed prognostication of the night: more cabanas. There will be more cabanas.
Yes, as many. There'll just be one island called Cabanas.
Cabana
It's gonna be
Island.
great. Yeah.
That's what they'll do with the Magic. They'll just float her off Castaway and make her one giant cabana. And everyone can just go get their cabanas there. Yeah, there
It's
you
gonna
go.
be
There you go.
perfect. But I
Yeah.
feel like they could easily do a Typhoon Lagoon Island,
True.
where they're bringing that experience. And I loved when they added the Pelican Plunge slides all those years ago. But unless you just want to hang out on the beach, which I love doing, I'm a total beach bum. You're right. There's this gap in the offerings, and I think that there's a lot that Disney could do with that. And, especially with their creativity, I would be curious to see.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
wonder how much of the new island, I wonder how much Disney was hamstrung with the new island and all of the sort of concessions that they needed to make, the environmental concessions, all of that sort of stuff. But,
But
then I look at that and I go,
Royal
but
had
then
to deal with
well,
the
hold on.
too.
Hold on, Sam. Yeah, but that deal for Coco Key was done ages ago, right? Like what I'm talking about is, what I was going to say is Royal's doing a deal right now in Nassau that's under a lot of pressure for that little strip of land next to the port to create like an adult exclusive, not island,
Beach
but
club.
private
It's a
getaway.
beach
Yeah,
club,
beach club. And like, I don't know, like that's still in flux, right? I mean, there's still a lot of pressure on them to figure out what they're going to do and what concessions they're going to have to make. So I just don't know if Disney was hamstrung a bit. I agree with this comment from Chris. Like, I think that there is a balance between what I'll call the utter insanity and chaos of Coco Key and the complete and total serenity and, of Castaway Key. Like, I think there's some way to balance these competing interests out. And I absolutely loved the pool at Coco Key. Like I so prefer swimming in a pool. The salt water just gets in my eyes. It's a problem for me. But I loved that there was just such a nice big pool with a swim up bar and some music playing. It was fun. Now the crazy water park, I don't think Disney will ever do. That's sort of my guess. So yeah.
Well, and the other comment we had from Larry about other lines making basically a lot of money from their island sales, right? So because the Royal Caribbean Water Park at Coco Key is like $100 a person, depending upon what sailing you're on. Obviously, it fluctuates depending upon demand and time of year and all that stuff. So it does seem like Disney could, if they wanted to, use that as an extra revenue source. But I think Disney has decided to go the way of, I'm not going to call it all inclusive, but I'm going to call it mostly inclusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Disney leans in the mostly inclusive. Our price tag is higher to begin with, but we don't nickel and dime you later. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a hard call there. I'm kind of with Brian. I think they could go in between, but I will say my prediction is that they won't.
Yeah. And I want to go back to something Sam said in the beginning. I don't think we'll see another private island anyplace else in the world. There's like the North Pacific, an island in the Pacific. The weather there, all that stuff is very unpredictable. There's not enough other port stops around. Like,
and it's just too far away from everything, right? Like
Yeah,
Hawaii
exactly.
is wonderful and beautiful, but you're going to spend a week in Hawaii because it's too far away from the mainland. So, that's the only place in the Pacific that I could really think
What
of where
about
the
something
weather
in like the
works.
Cabo area? They used to do the Mexican Riviera cruises all the time. And
If
maybe
they could-
there's something with the Panama Canal going back and forth.
If they could base a ship permanently on the West Coast, which let's just be clear, that would probably be the Magic or the Wonder.
Yeah.
If they could, because it'd be an older ship, and that's what tends to get based out here on the West Coast, is not the newest and greatest. Those go to the Florida ports, but they could base
We're
one
okay
of those
with
ships.
that, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
we'll take, you can
we'll
send
take
Magic
the
and
Wonder.
Wonder.
We'll
We'll
take
take
the
them
Wonder.
both. Yeah.
If they could do that and do the cruises year round, yes, but I just don't like. I feel like those sailings are all seasonal because the weather isn't great all year round. The weather in the Caribbean is pretty great all year round, so you need another location like the Caribbean where you can get that just all
you
the
just have
time
to go
good weather.
far enough south to Mexico. That's the
Well,
problem.
and to have a private island, you're going to have multiple ships sailing to it to fill the time,
Yes.
right? So that's the other
You can't do it with
advantage
one
of.
ship. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then you'd have like once a week stops or twice a week stops if you did 3-4 night cruises. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a good one to speculate on. When are we going to see those sweet summer 2025 itineraries?
Man, if I had $1 for every time I was asked this in the group in the last couple of months, I could pay for a Disney cruise. Let me tell you, people are itching to get these itineraries, and I'm like, Disney, give the people what they want.
Give the
They
people
want to give you their
itineraries.
money.
Right.
Yes.
We want to give you our money. We want to book Alaska 2025. Disney, give us our itineraries.
So to this specific question, I thought they were going to come out this month, but I'm actually thinking potentially more like next month, maybe. It's so unpredictable. Disney used to follow a very regimented, I don't want to say like down to the day, but you could reliably count on, we'll get these itineraries in this month. And they used to go out 2 years. It's like so sparse right now.
But that was pre-pandemic. Everything has changed, you guys. I feel like
I don't know that
expectation throw out the window.
Well, hold on, because the other cruise lines, I can book cruises into 2026 on some of them. I suspect what's really going on here is Disney doesn't like to tip their hand on what's coming when they're doing new stuff. And so I think they've been holding these releases much tighter, because if we go too far, you're going to know when the Treasure Main is going to be, you're going to know when the Adventure is going to start sailing. You're going to know when, so I think they have enough new going on. They're trying to keep it close to the vest. And also if they publish a bunch of stuff and then a maiden voyage gets delayed, they got a whole bunch of bookings they have to redo now. Right. So I think that's part of it. I actually think once we get over maybe into the last ship that they're going to release, we'll see them ramp back up, because the other cruise lines do this out to 2026 because it's money in their pocket. Like, that's cash flow, revenue generation, letting people book into 2026. I think Disney's going to start to need that too, with the size of the fleet they're building. I don't know, Rebecca, when do you think the itineraries are coming out? I mean, do you think we'll ever get back to like 2 years worth of them to book?
I feel like we've let Disney get away with the couple months at a time. So I don't know that we'll ever get back to that much notice. And I think they love the anticipation and the buildup of it too. That's just the vibe that I'm getting from all the small releases. But I feel like we'll know something in the next couple of weeks. Last year, I believe it was that last week of February into that first week of March when things opened up. So I'm hopeful we'll know on that soon. And I'm hopeful we'll know on the theme cruises for Q1 of next year soon, because it was around this time that they announced that Pixar Day at Sea and Marvel Day at Sea were coming back. And I'm so curious if Star Wars Day at Sea will be coming back.
Ooh.
Oh, here's my I predict no Star Wars Day at Sea for at least a few years.
No.
Like I think they're going to lean in hard to Marvel and Pixar, and I think Star Wars just didn't. I don't think it was a draw, for them. I think I always looked at it as like, we've been on Star Wars Days at Sea, we enjoyed them
Twice.
We did the whole costume thing. We met Chewbacca
just one time. We did the costume thing just one time. The second time we forgot the costumes.
But it was fun. I always looked at it and went, I'm not sure I'd book a cruise because it was a Star Wars Day at Sea. I'm absolutely trying to figure out how I get on a Marvel Day at Sea or a Pixar Day at Sea, right? So
True.
I just wonder if the guest feedback was kind of like, it was nice, but I didn't need it, right? So if they're going to bring it back, they should put it on the Wish, because they got Hyperspace Lounge on the Wish. They should find a way to do it there.
That would actually be really smart, especially after the Treasure comes out. If demand slows on the Wish, that would be a good way for them to increase demand on the Wish by bringing a specialty day at sea. I'm going to say.
I want to know what Rebecca thinks about Star Wars. Do you think it's coming back?
I think I definitely think there's a demand for it. People ask about it all the time. I would be curious, though, if they would bring in another theme. Frozen's popularity is not diminishing, and I think Frozen Day at Sea could easily happen on the Wish, like Sam, you were saying, to really, really drive that demand on. If you love princesses, this is it for you. So I think there's going to be, they know that these theme cruises get people excited, especially in the off season, and with how many cruises that they're going to have, how many ships they have leaving from Florida. I think it's only in their benefit to add in an additional theme sailing.
Yeah, I think that's a great prediction, but I'm gonna piggyback on what you said, Rebecca, and I'm gonna say I agree with you. I think itineraries are going to be out either very end of February or very early March. I think we're going to see those itineraries, and I think you're right. They're going to announce at least Pixar and Marvel. I love this prediction about Frozen Day at Sea. It's not a cruise that I would book, let me be honest, but I do think it would be a really, really smart idea. And it would go really nicely with the Wish, because you've got Arendelle and because you've got the Olaf's Royal Tea, which, by the way, was like a show within itself. It was fantastic. I got to go because I have a kid, so I could make him go, and Brian skipped it, but it was actually really fantastic. The food was terrible, but the show was fantastic.
But even some sort of like royal day at sea where you can get all the princesses involved. I mean, how often are people just all in on the royal gathering? On this sailing on the Wish, there were so many people dressed fully in Cinderella ball gowns. Blew my mind. I was like, how did you get that in your luggage? Please teach me your ways. I feel like there is such a demand for more princesses and more superheroes. So
totally.
How can Disney do more of that?
I wanted to throw up this comment. We were talking itinerary release. At some point, people, particularly cruisers, will make other plans. I 100% agree. I think this is why Disney has to get back into some rhythm, because if you're trying to plan your spring break and you can't book it because Disney hasn't released it, and you start looking around at Royal Caribbean, I mean, that's you may book something, and then Disney just lost out on that.
Except. So probably the three of us are like these people who do book our vacations like a year and a half in advance or 2 years in advance when the itinerary releases come out. However, I will say, I think a lot of people, when I talk to like coworkers and friends, they're always surprised at how far out I have my vacations planned, and they plan their vacations like same year. So like in September, they may be planning their April spring break. So they're not planning a year or 2 years in advance. They're planning maybe 9 months in advance. So,
but that actually works. That works against Disney, right? Because Disney's best prices are on opening day. And if I'm a year in advance and I'm looking at a Disney cruise or Royal Caribbean cruise, I mean, Royal's going to eat Disney's lunch on price just about every day of the week, right?
You're right.
Except on the icon.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just saying, I'm not sure that, I think they need to get into a more of a rhythm of when they're going to release. I'm just not sure they need to do it 2 years in advance, is my point.
Yeah.
I'll take predictability. Yeah, I will definitely take predictability. Yeah.
Just
this
gives
go ahead,
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that thing to look forward to. And I mean, you guys would be surprised how many people are planning for spring break this year right now.
Yeah.
Like we've gotten so many requests for March, April of this year. And, you know, I think there's a lot of families who they don't know what their time off schedule is going to be. They don't know necessarily. I mean, Lord knows with everything going on in the world, you don't know what funds might look like for a vacation. So
True.
there's a little bit of that last minute demand that with Disney's prices is an opportunity. So I will be very curious on that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to put this up about Disney has trained their customers to plan with Genie Plus DCL late release model is counterintuitive. I will say anything counterintuitive to planning a parks vacation right now is I am on board with because the cruise line is like the last vestige of light planning, and even that is starting to be a very different animal with the larger wish class ships and the demand and the number of concierge rooms being able to book all the stuff before everybody else. And so I don't know how much longer we'll be able to hold out. I want to pivot us. I want to ask, because Sam has desperately asked me to reserve time at the end of the show, Rebecca, for you to do a rapid fire round with us, because it's one of her favorite things to do. So I want to make sure that I do that. But I want to ask one last question. So let me set this up. I think Disney is entering an intense moment of, or I should say, entering a moment of intense competition. The theme parks with Epic Universe over the next year and the hotels and all of that stuff. That's a lot of competition, I think, for the Florida market at a time when people are sort of scratching their heads going, why is it taking Disney so long to open new rides? Why is the planning so complicated? Why are the hotels so expensive? Blah, blah, blah. On the cruise line side, you're seeing Royal put more and more ships in Port Canaveral. You're seeing them come out with bigger and bigger ships, more offerings, more things to do on board at relatively lower price points. I think that's going to put a ton of pressure on Disney Cruise Line to justify the value that they have or the expense that they are, or whatever, you know, having the price point that they're trying to operate at. What do you think comes of that competition, Rebecca? Do you think they innovate in some way on board these ships? Do you think that they have to lower their price, or gasp? Do we think we'll see the first Disney sales on cruises, something they've never done before? Like, what do you think comes of all of that competition that they're going to face?
Can you imagine those Disney commercials where it's like kid sales for, I mean, you guys remember the what was it? The
Disney Plus.
sale.
Yeah, it was basically kid sale free. Yeah.
Yes. And I mean,
for limited sailings, but
yeah, but I feel like Disney knows that, again, that demand is going to be what drives it. And there is more competition. Royal is putting so much money into their marketing budgets for these ships. And I do think we'll continue to see some cool things on board, but to keep up with all the flashiness and that balance of pricing, you know, Disney cruises are not the cheapest vacation. They're worth every penny, but I think something's going to have to change. I don't know that I've ever heard of Disney decreasing pricing, but I feel like having sales more often, discount, I don't know, just being a little bit more flexible. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I do think they're going to have to bring back some of these discounts like the Disney Plus one. A Facebook user is saying people still asked if they're going to offer another Disney Plus deal in the group that they're in. I think that they're going to have to, at some point, offer some deals and discounts, maybe last minute cruising ones, right? I mean, the other cruise lines all do that for flexibility. We have it on Disney in the form of like VGT, you know, guaranteed rooms, but we really don't have the last minute, you know, cruising sales, except if you're a Florida resident, and sometimes at military discounts as well.
Although those Florida resident rate sheets have been empty for a long time of late.
Yes. I'm saying once we've got more ships online and the demand maybe is a little bit lower because you got to spread it out across more ships, and because Royal is putting the pressure, I think that we could see some more sales in the future. I don't think they'll start their price point lower, though, because I think Royal, to your point, Rebecca, is actually starting their price point closer to Disney, at least with their newer ships. Yeah. And I love this comment from Rob, though, that Brian just pulled up. He's thankful that DCL is the final oasis from, he corrected in another post, from the WDW Magic Kingdom style rope drop culture. So that is
I gotta say, though,
true.
I gotta
Partially
say
true.
though, here is my public service announcement for anyone out there listening to or watching this show. Do not bring rope drop culture on board these ships. I have seen two
Don't
things
do
starting
it.
to happen on board, and
Oh my
it's
gosh.
really frustrating to me. One was you do not need to line up for dinner 20 minutes before dinner. Like, just have a drink, enjoy yourself, show up 5 minutes after the dinner call. They'll still seat you because your table's still there, and the show doesn't start for at least 25 minutes into the dinner seating. So you don't want to be obnoxious, but you don't have to like be lined up. Nothing's going to happen in the first 5 minutes of dinner that you're going to miss. The
Oh my
um,
gosh,
the second thing I
yes.
saw recently that was really, in my opinion, just crossing a line on the cruise line was people using towels to reserve spots at the rail for deck party shows. And I was going to lose my mind because I'm like, this is not the parade on Main Street. We don't need to save space. I will always let kids stand in front of me to be able to see things. Like let's just, this is a cruise vacation. Turn on the reggae, man. Like, just relax. Like, this is not the Magic Kingdom. So
I wish
sorry
they
for, I mean,
still had this.
step around and put my soapbox away, but yes, there you go.
No, get my soapbox out right next to you.
I
It's
love it.
driving me crazy. I remember when they used to literally have steel drum bands on board and they would play all day
Yeah.
when you were in port because it just added to the relaxation. And I think one of my biggest frustrations right now is this like must do everything mentality of, I see these events that are in my Navigator app. Oh my gosh, they're all sold out because I'm a first time cruiser or I'm silver. I'm not going to have any fun. And people just don't realize there's so much to do on board these ships. And I want more. That I love, right? The internet's great. It's brought people like us together. It helps connect people from around the world. But I wish I could mandate just like a relaxation policy for first time
Yes.
cruisers. Like, you're not allowed to book anything. You're not allowed, just go
I love
and
it.
enjoy the heck out of this vacation.
And they should have
Because
Bob Marley playing on repeat in their
yes,
ears. Don't worry about
yes,
a thing,
oh,
because every little
exactly.
thing is gonna be all right.
Now, you know what they should get? They
Yes.
should get an automatic drink package. And we were
You're on mute, Brian. You just turned yourself on mute accidentally. I was
Like,
wondering if there was something wrong with me. You're getting mute again. Nope, we can't hear you.
oh no, somebody took his soapbox away.
Somebody took it. He's
Oh.
saying they should have a automatic drink package. It was really funny. We just watched. I know exactly where he was going. We just watched How I Met Your Mother, and during the wedding season where Barney and Robin are getting married. And Lily basically pays the bartender to give her what's called the Kennedy package, and where she's just, and anytime her hand is empty of drink, they just hand you a drink.
I love that. That's awesome. But I feel like there's such anxiety around planning the perfect Disney cruise. And I'm like, you could step on board and not have a single thing planned and still have the best
Yep.
experience, because you don't have to plan anything. It's just part of the fun is relaxing, which I think people forget about is an option on vacation.
Absolutely.
Right?
I can't bring up the comments because Brian has the control of StreamYard, but one of our Facebook user friends says that they walked in maybe 15 minutes before showtime and sat exactly where Sam recommended them to sit. So you still can do that. It's just if you've got a party of 12, you're going to have to go early. But if you're a party of 1 or 2, you do not need to go early. We
Yeah.
have Brian back.
Yeah.
We
Oh.
cannot hear you still, Brian. All right. Well,
Mm.
I'm going to move to rapid fire while Brian
Yes.
sits here and just listened. I kind of love this, by the way. He's, for those watching on video, Brian is giving all kinds of thumbs down. But I'm going to ask you, Rebecca, your Disney favorites. I'm just going to ask you your Disney Cruise Line favorites, since obviously we're focused on that today. I already know your favorite ship because you've said it 12 times during the show. So it's the Disney
man.
Magic. We're going to go a little overtime so I can ask you these questions. But okay, what is your favorite Disney Cruise Line stage show? Any of the ships?
Oh, the original. There's nothing like Peter Pan and Anne Marie and Disney Dreams. Like, there's just nothing like it. Hey,
We
there's
heard
audio.
Brian. We heard your audio.
Yeah,
I
we
will
heard that.
not be silenced. I will not be silenced.
I love it. All right. What is your favorite bar, again, on board any of the ships?
Oh, I love Skyline. Oh my gosh,
Oh,
on the
great one.
Fantasy, it is just beautiful. Nightingales on the Wish was very, very nice, but is small, but there's nothing like Skyline.
Yeah, and the one on the Fantasy, I'm with you, is better because it's a little bit bigger than the one on the Dream.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, favorite thing to do on board, favorite activity?
Relaxing with my family or friends that I'm sailing with. That is my favorite. That and eating. It's a tie.
Speaking of eating, what is your favorite rotational dining restaurant?
I'm a sucker for animators. There's
Yeah.
just nothing like the original. And I would say animators on the Magic Wonder are great, but like animators on the Dream and Fantasy, when you get those extra shows in there, the best.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. Really important questions. Favorite savory item and favorite sweet item on a Disney cruise. We're going to start with sweets because savories are always my favorite. So favorite sweet item.
Oh my gosh. Which ship? I mean, chocolate souffle is what comes to mind first, but creme brulee too, and all the ice cream. Is there an all of the above option?
Yeah, there you go. That you gave us at 3 and then all of the above. I love it. All right.
Yes.
A favorite savory item.
There is nothing that makes me feel like I'm on board a Disney cruise like chicken tenders and french fries.
Love it.
Right?
They're
Life-changing.
life-changing.
Life-changing. Exactly.
Yes, the best.
Okay. Aqua Dunk, Aqua Duck, Aqua Mouse. Pick one.
I love a drop slide. But there is nothing like that final wraparound when you're on the aqueduct, and it's just serenity as you're like looking out over the blue ocean. So I'm gonna go aqueduct.
Love it. All right. And my last question is, what is your bucket list cruise? If you could go on a cruise, a Disney Cruise Line ship, but anywhere in the world, where are you going?
I would love to do the Southern Caribbean itineraries. Those islands just look fantastic. So one of those like 10-night Southerns, look right up my alley.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank
Nice.
you for playing, Rebecca. Other than your show choice, you win.
That's okay. That's okay.
Rebecca is an automatic winner. All right.
Listen. I have to give some judgment. Okay. This is not a judgment-free zone. Okay.
Oh, wait, I have to know, what are y'all's for the shows?
So for me, it's
the
Beauty
smoked
and the
old fashioned at
Beast.
Hooks Barbary.
that is Brian's favorite show is the smoked old fashioned. Yeah, no, Beauty and the Beast is number 1 with honorable mentions to Tangled and Frozen. And sometimes I will tell you, the last production I saw of Tangled on board the Magic, I was like so blown away. I was thinking, oh, could this actually beat Beauty and the Beast? But I'm still giving it to Beauty and the Beast. So it's really, really close. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
But
I've got
thank
2
you
more
for playing.
comments.
Yeah.
I've got 2 more comments I want to throw up first. We all love Karen over at My Path Unwinding Travel, and she sent us a comment very on, just thanking us for all being great partners with her agency. So I just wanted to thank Karen, our fabulous show sponsor, for sending that note.
Love Karen.
And I wanted to end our show with one final prognostication. Came from Chris Kitterer. What do you think the 3rd Wish class ship will be themed to? And any thoughts on a name?
Oh,
I'll give you my name because I've been jonesing for this name for a while now, which is the Disney Imagine or the Disney Imagination. I really thought that we would have that before. I'm really gunning for Figment off the back. It seems like he's getting a lot of play in the parks. So I think a Figment statue in the atrium or off the back would be really cool. So that's my theory on a name. But I don't know. I mean, if you do that, they're supposed to be naming the ships to theme them. So it would have to be sort of imagination and wonder and all that fun stuff on the inside of it. So that's my guess. Rebecca?
Imagine or Imagination are definitely up there. But when I think about classic Disney, even thinking to the Disney Plus commercial that was on the Super Bowl last night, When You Wish Upon a Star, is it the Disney Star? Peter Pan theme, what, like Tiana, you could do something there with her wishing on. Like there's a lot that I feel like they could do in the atrium looking up with the stars. So maybe, but I like what you're saying. I shouldn't admit this to the internet. I didn't know who Figment was until this last D23. I had no idea. And everybody's talking about him. I started seeing socks everywhere. But this is what happens when you don't really like go to the parks.
Yeah, if you're not a parks person, and you have to be specifically an Epcot person for Figment.
Yes,
too.
I've since learned that. So I have some Figment catching up to do. But I love that idea of having him off the back.
Yeah.
Sam, what about you? What do you think?
I'm going to agree with you, that both of you, that I think Imagine or Imagination would be a great, ship name. Figment would be a great, Stern character. I think they could also really lean more into Pixar with that as well. I think, Pixar is a huge success for them. And so I think leaning into Pixar would be the way to go. I love this name that CT came up with, though, the Disney Believe. I think Believe would be, you could do that with the imagination theming. And, I still believe in fairies, and I believe in all of these other, characters and whatnot. So
the only problem with Imagination is, again, we're going to have this problem where there's stuff on one ship that then should have been on the other ship. So I'm thinking about like the, what do you call it? The Inside Out themed, ice cream gelato place.
Sure.
If they're going to do the Disney Imagination, it should kind of be over there. So, yeah. Maybe we'll see, like at a dry dock, a complete rationalization of these ships finally, like where they move the stuff around so it's in the right spot. But who knows?
Yeah.
Well,
Could you imagine?
But before we end our show, though, Rebecca, we would be it would be crazy if we didn't tell people where they can find and follow you on all the social medias, because you obviously have a great big presence both on Facebook and also on Instagram. But where can people find and follow along with you on your adventures, and how can they get involved with the Disney Cruise Line community?
You guys are so sweet. And thank you guys for having me. This was so fun. This makes Mondays the best day of the week.
I love it.
So you guys, I would love for everybody to join the DCL community. So you can follow me at Disney Cruise Line Community over on Instagram, or if you search on Facebook for DCL Community, or if you're under groups just search Disney Cruise Line. And it's that really, really big one that's been around for nearly 20 years. So love for everybody to join and just sharing the love for all things Disney cruising, because it is not going anywhere, at least not until they break my heart with the magic leaving. And then who knows what will happen to my spirits.
Maybe she'll be 76. We're crossing our fingers. Maybe she'll
well, and don't worry. I'm sure they'll cut her up into little pieces and then, sell those to you, so you can bring a piece of the magic home with you. So there you go. But for now, Rebecca, thank you so much for taking time to join us on this live episode. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
See ya.